again, I don't like Kamala Harris, right? She's a fucking cop, and you know how I feel about cops. Um,
Hmm.
but this got brought up because of her race, and so you were saying that she's not doing some sort of honest presentation of her race, right? How is this? Because this is what you brought up then, because I hadn't heard about this. How is this a dishonest representation of her race?
When you were, it's not a dishonest representation of a race. I'll just
Thanks so much. All right. Topic one. Too many young hip hop artists have died recently due to violence. A new article argues that this isn't due to the hip hop culture, but rather systemic racism that produces volatile young men. Do you believe that? Is hip hop completely blameless for the deaths we see? And what about the audience? Do they have any culpability due to their demand for violent music? So yeah, there's like a whole list of people who we've lost. And another young man I think died like very recently, like a few months ago actually. Um, and it just kind of keeps happening. Um,
Take
uh,
off. Take off.
might have
Migos.
been. I guess yeah. I don't know any of them. But this just keeps happening, and people are wondering why. And there's a certain group of people who will say like, yeah, it's just hip hop, right? Like that is definitely the issue. Others will say, well, no, it's racism or whatever, right? But like, what about both? I don't know. So I'm just curious where you guys see the balance here. We'll start with our friend Joe Lewis.
um, I think what is true is the way these conversations around rappers is framed is like it's always framed in such a way where it's trying to paint this idea that it's like unique with rappers and hip hop culture. And I think that's incredibly disingenuous and just politically dishonest. Um, what is true is that there's an epidemic of violence and a normalization of violence in America. And I think people might feel like it's profound or tragic or especially tragic in a particular moment because these niggas are rich. Fuck them. Like, let's be like, what are we doing here? Like, we got to stop like idolizing celebrities and using celebrities to like wake up on things. Like for fuck's sake, like Near Hall was shot in Newark this weekend. He's 18 years sorry, he's 15 years old. There was a there was a dude who was found just with multiple gunshot wounds in Newark the other day too. There was an 18-year-old who was shot in Patterson. Um, sorry, let me rephrase that. An 8-year-old it was for like attempted murder for like because some of the that he shot like an attempted robbery. And then there was a cop who killed his ex-girlfriend and killed himself in Deptford. And then there was like a man in Milford the other day too, who was just found with a gunshot wound and died. Like, and I'm in one of the states with the strictest like gun laws in the country. So, like, yeah, there's an epidemic of violence. There's an epidemic of gun violence, and just because some black people are rich and they can say some like slick rhymes, doesn't mean that they're immune to these conditions. Um, I wish that people. I mean, it's nice to know that so many people are so lazy and don't give a shit because if they cared at all about these situations, they wouldn't wait for some nigga at a Waffle House to get blasted to start caring about violence in America. I don't know. I think we got to keep our eye on the ball with things in America, and we shouldn't like wait until a celebrity like outlines that hey, this is a problem for us too. You know, like I don't know.
Okay. Let's go to our friend uh Pyro, who first takes this moment to I mean he knows it's coming to him, right?
Naturally, naturally. I hope my audio is better. I fiddle with my audio a little bit.
Yeah, much better. Thank you.
Okay, cool, cool. Um, yeah, no, I think Joe kind of hit it on the mark, but I don't think that rap music is inescapable when we have this issue for this when we have this conversation, I mean, for the simple fact that like these are motherfuckers who are made in these communities. Like the article talks about it in way more depth, and I think we'll get into it on the open panel. But like Joe said, like idealizing these celebrities and trying to make them out to be like fucking supermen or some shit when they just aren't that is gonna always lead to failure. Um, yeah, we have issues in the black community that we all know about, we all speak about, that are systemic and shit like that. And then we're surprised when we see members of our community, like Joe said, who are rich as fuck, who have quote unquote made it out. They're still acting like, you know, the same mentality. Is like, why are we fucking surprised? There are systemic issues in that, and like niggas don't change on the dime just because they got the dime in their bank account. That's just not how it rolls. Like some of the mindsets stay the same. Some of the lessons you learned growing up in them tough conditions do like implant themselves, sometimes in negative ways, and it sometimes leads to shit that like we see happening on the street with some of these rappers. But like to just wholesale say like, yo, it's rap, that's what's doing it, like that's fucking bullshit. Like we're not going to be out here blaming country music for like every time a school shooting happens. Like I'm not about to do it to rap. There's systemic issues in this country that like lead to our level of fucking violence that we see today.
Okay. Let's go to Blaze, please.
Yeah, what Joe said, I would agree with that, and some of the things that Wizard said, but it's also a lack of guidance that a lot of people, especially who are primarily listen to the hip hop community, and how they think, some people think who don't have the right mindset to think for themselves, they would listen to this rapper and have this belief that gang banging or being in some kind of crew where you have to wear this specific type of clothing, or you have to be repping this in order to try to become a big thing, or try to get that street cred. So a lot of people can say it's an act of systemic racism, but it's not the white man specifically that's telling some black folks out there, we had to go out there and shoot these guys. While when we was living in these conditions, we had to take a oath, or we had to do something terrible in order to get into this kind of group. So people can blame systemic racism all they want, but people have their own choices to not act violence, or not act violent at all. It's this whole, well, people are doing it because of street cred type of talking point, and that talking point has damaged the black community for a long time now. And the fact that because we have no authentic or no good guidance in our community, because a lot more people are listening to rap and thinking this is the best way to make it, or this is the best way to try to do it. There is going to be a lot of people who just think like, probably doing stuff like this, or what they say in rap. This is how we're gonna make it. So it's a total like a guidance that's basically the main factor of a lot of people, especially in the rap game, getting shot and killed. A lack of guidance.
Yeah. Let's go to Razor.
Sorry, I had my mic muted. So I'll fully admit I might be a bit of a fish out of water here. I for the longest time I kind of ignored anything that had to do with hip hop or the rap in general. It just wasn't my forte or my favorite genre. In terms of how the communities were, I was sheltered, so I don't know a lot. I've always heard. I have definitely heard the stories of different rappers getting shot. There's always been that stereotype of like, oh, because they do these drill songs, it's obvious that they're just as bad, or they are that violent because they're doing these drill songs. I guess the way I see the way the community sorry, I've lost track immediately. I apologize. I cannot really say too. I really can't say too much because I don't have as much knowledge as everyone else here seems to have about the rap community. I can simply say I do see the stereotypes constantly happening, and the violence can kind of tie in with with some systemic issues, especially poverty, and them being able to using hip hop and rap in order to get out of said poverty, which can obviously still lead to the.
Okay,
I'm really bad at this. I'm
sure.
sorry.
No problem. And then let's go to Isle.
You know, the rap community always gets a bad name, and you know, I think that that's wrong. I remember, like in the '90s, listening to the music in the 2000s when I was a little bit old enough to understand some of the lyrics. That you know, they were really talking about the things that were going on in their communities. They were talking about how they didn't feel safe because the police were no good, that people were bringing in all sorts of negative things into the community, and they felt like they needed to stand up and be the ones to stop it by getting outreach about their problems out through their music. And I think that was never a big problem. But I think what happened is like this so-called gangster rap subgenre where people are talking about crime, they're talking about drugs and death and carnage. I think that is what's giving lots of people a bad idea of what really rap is supposed to be about. And I think that when these young rappers are getting involved in things of this nature where they die into violence, I think that that is a very sad thing because it's always sad when someone loses their lives. But it's not the only problem. There's also like lots of drug problems. Like Juice World uh, died of an overdose apparently, and you know that was like not really good because I liked his music a little bit. Um, so I think that these are not necessarily in depth, you know, like intrinsic of the rap genre. And I think we need to be a little bit careful when we talk about these things because it's not just that they're rappers and so they deserve it because it's just what their life is. But there's something going on with the youth, especially in the youth of these music industries, that are leading them to make very poor decisions with life altering and sometimes life terminating effects. And we just need to talk about it and see if we can push forward with a new way to help these this new generation out. Thank you.
Mordecai.
On this subject, I partially want to blame the industry itself for perpetuating music that dehumanizes our own people. We put out the message that dehumanizes ourselves and creates a perpetual violence against ourselves. But there was a period in time where hip hop was used to show the state of the community and what you're around. You go back to the message, Grandmaster Flash kind of stuff. That was explaining the situation that they were living in. Then somewhere along the line, it got perverted and something came from it that should not have been celebrated or monetized for that matter. So you got a period, I want to say late 90s, early 2000s, a conscious period where Common, Erica Badu, all these other rappers were coming out that were putting out a positive message. I don't know how lucrative it was for the industry itself, but nobody was getting killed in those circles because they weren't dehumanizing anyone. They weren't promoting violence. So I'm going to say it's partially the culture and partially what promotes the culture that is causing the violence that's happening to these people. Because one of the people I consider very tragic that died was Extentation. Dude didn't seem to be in the hood like that. I don't know what the whole deal was, but they knew who he was, how much money he had, and what he was doing. And he was assaulted and died. And I don't feel that really had anything to do with the music itself, but the perpetuation of dehumanization in the culture to hurt ourselves.
Up is the panel.
What are we going to do to help out these new up and comers that seem to be losing their way to violence and drugs and things of that nature?
They need guidance, but nobody's really stepping up to do that.
Partially
Well,
don't
who
think
well,
that's
who
the
can
right question.
who can we point to as the role models to stop that? Because Lee was saying, like, this wasn't happening to that extent with the like the old school NWA Public Enemy
Yes, it
era
was.
of rappers.
Yes, it was.
There is the J Cole and the Daxes and the Kendricks that uh, tries to send a much more positive message out, but they get overshadowed by a lot of other rappers that talk about some straight bullshit like the Kevin Gates that's saying some of the most outlandish shit. And
I love
it's all
Dax's music.
but because they try to speak in a more positive note and try to get people to like actually think about some stuff, like and Ice Cube did the exact same thing some years back, but a lot of people was not even in his radar because he wasn't he was a old school guy that was still rapping in this new school generation, and people just toss him aside for like this. Oh, we just trying to get turned. We just trying to have a good time. We ain't trying to hear some positive messages. It's it's the mentality like that, and like some people who listen to hip hop, where they're more worried about getting turned up than actually listening to a much more positive message. So that could be a contributing is a contributing factor of a lot of problems with the hip hop community.
I have a big beef with Ice Cube, especially because he was one of the people that pioneered gangster rap, and that wasn't his lifestyle. He was writing the stuff, he wasn't necessarily living it. And the first opportunity he had to get better and get out, he went to school for architecture and left that whole thing behind until he decided to come back. He didn't preach that message. He didn't say, oh, go get an education, become an architect, become an engineer. He said, pistol grip pump in my lap at all times.
There is an album that he did that I listened to a couple of songs on there. He literally it's titled Hood Mentality. I don't know if you heard it. Oh, well, it's basically the whole he's telling people, well, hey, we need to like get out of this mindset and actually think about some other things that could actually benefit us. Stop with this we need to stop with this whole hood mentality this hood mentality thing, and we need to actually start thinking about a much more positive route. So Ice Cube did make some songs that should have some people thinking. Problem is the album was not in a lot of people's radar.
Wonder why, but he broke the vase, but didn't fix the vase.
I'm
But
kind of confused. Are we confusing Ice Cube with Ice T here?
Ice-T's also bad.
No, I'm being genuinely serious. Are we confusing Ice Cube with Ice T here?
I'm not.
Because Ice T was one of the pioneers of gangster rap, not Ice Cube.
Oh,
Not even
Ice-Cube was NWA.
close. But to say that Ice Cube was the pioneer of gangster rap is historically inaccurate.
I don't even remember Ice-T doing gangster rap until around that same time. He was doing weird electronica music.
What?
Old head fight.
He did make a song called the original gangster. He did make a song about that. About Ice T made that.
Ice T was one of the first, if not the first.
Yeah, just
Then
looking
the
it up.
NWA followed after.
Pioneered in mid-1980s by rappers such as Schoolie D and Ice-T. Okay.
Yeah, Schoolie D, Ice T, and then you had sort of like the feats between East Coast and West Coast styles that emerged with groups like NWA, with individuals like Dr. Dre, Snoop, Eazy-E, etc. I'm just trying to make sure where we're talking, because there is obviously the like sort of like the emergence of Ice Cube and the emergence of NWA. Just I don't know, just seemed kind of weird, but it's such a side thing that
I
no, no, no.
First, I know what I heard first.
Yeah. I was just kind of confused where it was, but I think we sorted it out. I just think it's just the conditions where these individuals come from, and the way that these institutions work is that they're not designed to try to uplift these people out of their conditions. It was just designed to give them money. So, like, it's the same it's the same sort of situation in the NFL with like individuals like Jerry Jones. Like the institutions are constructed in such a way where you'll always be a player and never an owner. You'll always be a player and never a coach. So, and when you have this sort of like settled habit of thought and action around these things, like of course you're going to have rappers and individuals who still resort to things from their communities and where those communities come from. Because they're still part of those communities, even if they're divorced from it through like fame and success, because that's where they still come home to.
I'll say like I want to 100% take that into account when I think about like the people themselves, not so much as the product. Because like let's be real, like we all know like when you get in that record booth and you record your rap, like if your studio and your record label don't like it, like you might not be able to put that shit out. I think Waterkai was on to something when he mentioned in his opening that like it's the studios themselves and the way these things work. I think like when we look at how big rap music and hip hop has become, like to say that like it's one of the key factors in all of this violence, specifically within the black community, like I can't really buy it when we look at all the other communities in America and they don't all share, you know, the same levels of violence. They don't all share the same problems when we know that damn near all of them listen to the music and they consume it at high enough rates where it's at the top of billboards year after year after year. So when I think about it like that, I'm kind of trying to figure out like why is this kind of the only music being pumped out on that level? Why are these the only songs being like let out and shit like that? Because like we see the reaction from the fans. Like if this is the only shit being pumped out for years and years and years, a rapper tries and change their image and rap about something wholesome like their wife, you know, they get fucking shat on, they get dogged on, and it's the worst song of the album, and you become a meme.
You do still sound low. Like
Jesus Christ.
yeah, now you found good. Like when you're like right up on your mic.
When I'm right up on my mic, okay, I gotta
Okay.
deep throat my mic to sound good. I'm sorry.
All right.
I mean,
To that, it's also the fan base of rap, like the pioneers of rap, like who say they live rap, they love rap. It's also a portion of them that speaks the loudest, that says we don't want positivity, or we don't want to talk about mental health and all that stuff like what Hobson and Dax does. Even though those two right there are good rappers that talk about some mental issues, but because they don't go with this bandwagon of talk about another dude's bitch is some Tim's, or some other stupid shit like that, they don't have they records played on the radio. And the people who do have the records played on the radio, basically the hip hop and R&B radios, those individuals who do talk that kind of stuff when it comes to like what they went through, or who they had to pop in order to make it big. Those are the ones that who become who become the top stars. And you had the individuals like Dex. I don't know if y'all know who Dex is.
I love Dax. I actually binged most of his stuff when I found him when he did like the Grinch thing. Like when I found that, I ended up finding all the other stuff. He's an amazing rapper. His lyrics are just amazing. Everything he says I actually cried with his more recent one.
Dear Alcohol.
Yeah, that Dear Alcohol.
Yeah,
I just cried.
So it's music like that where he's talking about mental issues, and the record apparently went gold, but because he's not signed to an industry, it didn't go platinum, and people didn't really hear it. Like the song only got 20 million views, while you got who's the top rapper right now? Because I've not really been paying attention to rap for a while. Who's the top rapper right now?
That's a pretty subjective question.
Like Eminem? I don't know.
Like I said,
not Eminem. Not Eminem.
My man really just said Eminem.
Yeah,
mean,
it's funny. I mean, like you could say there's an argument to be made about Drake. There's an argument to be made about Jay-Z.
Drake
There's an
don't Drake
argument to be
Drake is
made
a
about.
Drake is an industry rapper. He's not a legitimate rapper. He doesn't write his own shit, bro.
Okay.
You see, Joe was right. It is subjective because then we got to get to like what's a real rapper and what's a like industry
Yeah, I mean,
rapper
like
and like
there,
He don't.
what's
He,
not
he
a
don't.
real
an
He, he,
argument
he
can
don't.
be
He don't.
made.
No.
An
If,
argument can be
if
made
he,
about a lot of rappers, though. Like,
Okay, here's my thing. This is my personal opinion. If you want to call yourself like probably if people want to label this guy as the top rapper right now, he needs to at least write his own lyrics like J. Cole or Kendrick does. They like
I mean, a
Drake
lot of
is
rappers don't have like multiple people working on their lyrics, so this isn't a new thing.
yeah.
My man
But-
wasn't paying attention to rap a minute ago, but now he got criteria that needs to be met hardcore before he can call a nigga a rapper. That is amazing to
No,
me.
I've said this for years. I've said this for years.
You sound like my grandpa.
be-
I've
be-
said this
because
for
Drake-
years, son.
Because Drake is more of an industry rapper, and he doesn't really write all, like his own songs. I don't consider him like one of the top rappers because it's not coming from him. It's coming from somebody else. Like like once again the Daxes, the Hobsons, the Coles, the Kendricks. They write their own lyrics. Drake barely even does that.
I mean,
he can do a freestyle from here and there. Say about he's talented, but it doesn't really mean anything for real.
I mean, would you put him above Denzel Curry?
I haven't even heard one fucking Denzel Curry song.
That's amazing.
I didn't even know
Does Curry do Ultimate?
JID, Nas, like
I do. I
Nas,
have
that's
heard
personal.
JID, and I do like Nas.
like I said,
His recent album he just came out with. I liked it, especially the song Session Proof and Hood to Hood. I like those songs.
I guess like the thing that I'm kind of stuck on is there's a level of just like individuality that's kind of baked into like the subtext of this discussion a little bit, and like we can recognize that it's just bullshit. Like the idea that we are able to like have full facility over the decisions that we make is just kind of just like bullshit. That
I don't
we
think
are,
it's bullshit, Joe.
I think we're a
they-
product of our conditions.
I think
Like,
they covered it really well in the article that when these
Yeah.
dudes become millionaires and shit and they become rich and they become famous, like they're still taking all of their life experiences with, like you said,
yeah,
I'm kind of agreeing. I just don't agree it's bullshit. Like I agree what you're saying. Like they are products of like their environment and shit, but they're just becoming rich. And like they highlighted that in the article. Like when this guy
Yeah.
like he became rich, the Migos rapper that died, it's not, he's just dropping everything and like he's becoming like a new man. Like he's carrying his mindset. He sees someone he doesn't like, it's on sight, just like it'd be for, a poor, regular, degular, worker Joe like the rest of us. Like we have those relationships, we have those urges and shit. And he just got a lot of money. Like,
yeah. I think like when I say bullshit, I mean insofar as like America's a violent country, and any opportunity that media and politicians and like especially politicians have a like if they can vilify music as the reasons to why culture is falling apart, especially reactionaries, they'll just take they'll just take it, where it's like, no, we can recognize that like the conditions that people are under result into like these results aren't like surprising. And we live in a country that just ignores black people. Like so any type of change is going to require like a very conscious and dedicated effort to the conditions of black people and trying to like address them, because there's only so many fucking rich black immigrants that can individuality and bootstrap their way up and then blame fucking ADOS and black Americans for their own problems. Like there's only so many black immigrants that you can platform and then blame black Americans. Like, see, look at all these Look at all these immigrants that came from a level of wealth and wealth that you don't have never seen in your entire life. But you need to fix your problems, Black America. Like, it's kind of gross.
My thing with that is because we have some so-called leaders, and I'm using that in
Who?
quotations because we don't really have leaders in the community that actually talk about some problems. Like you get some people talk about Al Sharpton is one of the leaders of the Black community. Barack Obama is one of the leaders of the Black community, but not really leaders. They just talked about certain things that they say, we need to fix this, we need to fix that, but they actually discuss some things in our own community that we should be doing, which could be a contributing factor of why we don't get any better.
Barack Obama confused people on what being Black is. He also showed that it doesn't matter if you're Black, you too can be a mediocre president in the United States, and you too can bomb brown people. Like you,
right,
like
okay, right, you're right.
like that's what he showed. But he also, to his credit, confused Black people about what it means to be Black, and confused Black men and what it means to be Black men. Like, this is the man that told Black people to pull their pants up.
All right, wait a minute. Can you expand on that, Joe? That Obama confused Black people what it means to be Black? I'm not sure if you're joking.
He overtly said that there is no such thing as a Black America. And then even in his rhetoric and how he talked about Black people, he never overtly clarified the fight as what it means to be Black in America, because he didn't care. It was never in his politics. It was never in the way that he was navigating. He just didn't care about Black people. But again, he platformed himself to have race no longer as in like the forefront. And what that did for 8 years is confuse Black people. Because the only way that you can like bring along white liberals is be like, see, look, like Black people, like, you know, we don't have to like have racialized politics. We don't have to have that. Look at me, an immigrant from that came into like me too, like a family of immigrants. Like there's just, it was just kind of bullshit because that nigga ain't ADOS. Like we know this. Like there's just like, it's frustrating because that was baked within his rhetoric of like a lack of racialized consciousness, and he did that across 8 years. And then every time it came to like trying to actually address the problems that exist among Black people, he kicked the ball. Whether it be about gun violence in America, whether it be about school shootings, whether it be about
So it's also a problem when it comes to like lack of education. Like that people think some people think that if a Black person is apparently too smart, smarter than some other Black folks. Apparently he's trying to be white and all that other bullshit. It's also like that kind of rhetoric that splits us apart. Even though some people try to do things like in a much more smarter economic way, and that's also one of the traits that a lot of Black Americans were missing. Actually now we are trying to get a much better education, but we aren't trying to actually push for the entirety of the community to have like a better economic what's the one I'm looking for, legitimacy. It's also that. So you brought up the point where Barack Obama basically said that, like what, like you said, like was what you said for what Barack Obama did, was that ever covered in the news?
He said it outright.
Outright? Okay.
He said it. He said that there's no such thing as a Black America. There's no such thing as an Asian America. There's no such thing as a white America. There's just the United States of America. And then that basically says, hey, all of you racialized people, shut the fuck up. Your racialized identity as it relates to America does not matter. That's what that type of language says.
I'm not.
And people eat that up.
Are we positive that's what he meant though? Like,
what other way can we interpret that?
Well, you could say that because I remember this. and you know that I've criticized Barack Obama, so
Yeah.
I'm not a fanboy here. But that this was like a very generic liberal way of saying, hey, like we are together, we are united, because like this was like opposed to like the blue America and the red America, right? Rhetoric that had been started before. So this is like, instead of that, we are a united group, and that yeah, I mean, I mean, I guess that's pretty much it, right? Like we're just like united. I hear what you're trying to say in terms of like, well, this type of rhetoric, when you say something like that, it makes it like, it sweeps the like underlying disadvantages and whatnot under the rug. I hear that, but like it's like, you know, like rah rah, let's come together, folks, right? Like it's like typical like a platitude of like an inspiring speech, but like I'm not necessarily sure that
So
he
like
meant.
I mean, we can also go to what he said, because I'm going on a debate in a couple weeks, and we're talking about like, is Black America in trouble? And like Barack Obama said this directly to the question, how do you respond to the criticism that your administration hasn't done enough to support Black businesses? And he said, and I'll just read it, my general view has been consistent throughout, which is that I want all businesses to succeed. I want all Americans to have opportunity. I'm not the president of Black America. I'm a president of the United States of America, but the programs that we have put in place have been directed at those folks who are least able to get financially through conventional means. Like, he lied to Black people and then threw it in their face that, like, I'm very particular about the rhetoric, like the language of Barack Obama, insofar as he understood that his entire political career, and the same thing is for Raphael Warnock, the same thing is for Kamala Harris, they all don't want to be painted as Al Sharpton. So they will do whatever it takes and use whatever it takes linguistically to distance themselves from any type of racialized identity, because any type of racialized identity for a Black politician will label you as a Black Sharpton, will label you as the Umar Johnsons, will label you as the Tariq Nasheeds, despite the fact that those latter two individuals are not in the political zeitgeist in any type of way that's actually serious.
Okay, first of all, first they said Kamala Harris was Indian American. Then they said she's Black American. Then they said she's Asian American. Like
she's like, Kamala Harris decides what race she is based on the company that she's in front of. Like,
yes.
I wish, like, she said she's Black until she's POC, and you can there's just a lineage of that language in her rhetoric. Like, there's just, it's rough.
I made this comment a long time ago, about a year ago. Like she pulls the biggest, I want to say biracial card, but at the same time, like, you don't know exactly what she is.
But she is biracial though, right?
Well, like when I say that, like she pulls the ultimate. Oh, I'm Indian. No, I'm Black. No, I'm Asian America. Then now all of a sudden,
I'm not.
People saying she's Jamaican. I don't know.
I mean, she is Jamaican. She is of Jamaican background. She is of Indian background. Like, I don't. But I like. It's like, it seems like a criticism, like that you and Joe are leveling at her. But like, if she is within, like, let's say an Asian delegation, right? You know, like she's talking to head of state from Asia, why wouldn't she say, yeah, I'm Asian too? I am an Asian American. Why can't she use that as well? Like, with you're saying that like
is that it's
but
never.
The main point was, sorry to cut you off. The main point was doing the whole 2020 bit. Oh, this is gonna be the first Black vice president. They ain't say no other race.
They did say other races. No, they absolutely did.
The main point that the Democrats made was that she was the first Black.
Yeah, so what? But so what? But she's also.
They did not say any other race.
No, they first of all, they absolutely did. They absolutely talked about her Indian heritage. They absolutely brought that up, and it was never like a hidden thing, right? They absolutely brought that up. But in the end, what difference does it make? Because she is all those things.
She is all those things, which is fine. But if you are talking to a group of people, especially a group of racialized people, and we understand that Democrats are awful on race, you're going to have to be very genuine and authentic in your presentation when you're talking about your own racialized identity. And Kamala Harris is inconsistent. That's my point.
I'm sorry, but hold on. Well, if anyone wants to jump in, I'm gonna yell at Joe some more. But like, if anyone wants to jump in,
I don't know why this is like such a controversial take that she's inconsistent on her own expression of a racialized identity. And she only brings these type of conversations up and the plight of these individuals when it's convenient for her politically.
Ira.
This is
Yeah, so I'm not gonna talk about Kamala's fucking race because that's fucking weird as shit. Y'all can be on y'all weird nigga shit. But to Joe's point about Obama and how politicians tend to work, I think he does have a point where like we've talked about it on these panels, Prime, Joe, Water, Kai, Isles, like right Blaze is new to me and Razor's new to me, but like I'm sure y'all have watched, we've talked about it on these ABs where we talk about the systemic issues in this country that just keep getting ignored in favor of what Prime was talking about earlier, like the rah we need to just come all together and like be one America shit. No, there are like there are specific problems in this country which require specific attention, and I think that's where Joe is trying to get to. And like I realize I'm trying to do the fucking band-aid shit, but like that's the point I can agree with. Like, yeah, politicians as a whole, and it was especially disappointing under Obama, like to watch like basically the same liberal shit happen. Black people be used as this massive voting block. You know, we pumped up like we feel real good about, and then it's like 4 more years of the same bullshit, the same shit. You know, Michigan still ain't got water. Flint, Michigan still ain't got water. Shit like that. It's kind of fucking disappointing, especially when we look at it from the black community. Speaking for myself, this is our president. This is the first black president. And the nigga really wasn't that much change for the black community like he said he was. I'm quite disappointed. Again, I'm staying away from Kamala's race shit because that's weird as fuck.
Yeah, so I'm not. So Joe, like, what do you want Kamala to do? Like, this is so strange. Like, so like, if she's in front of, let's say, like the Indian, well, Prime Minister, he's a piece of shit, Narendra Modi. But like, if he's there, and she's having a discussion with him, should she not, right? Being a different company, should she not say she's Indian American? She should deny that, like, I'm a Black American. Definitely don't bring up the Indian side because that has nothing to do with anything.
She needs to be able to clarify the fight within the communities that she's talking to. And she's never been able to clarify the fight within the communities that she's talking to and the issues that exist within these communities. This is a woman who went to the NAACP and tried to conflate gun violence to 2 separate acts of gun violence in America. One was a white supremacist attack and one was a school shooting. And then she tried to paint it like these 2 things are analogous to each other. And she did this in front of the NAACP, in front of Black people. She 1350'd in front of Black people. Like, I can't just sit here and be like, yeah, like if I hear a Black politician say we make up 13% of the population, oh yeah, she's gonna say something really incredible after that. Like it was elementary. And this was last year that she did this.
I don't remember hearing that.
Yeah,
NAACP National Conference in Atlantic City last year.
I haven't heard this, so I'd have to take a look to see exactly what she said.
Almost been kind of
this is how it. But
so no, I was just saying, like Kamala's been extremely quiet to at least to me.
Yeah.
I rarely see her or hear anything about her. What Joe just said, like I never heard about it.
I remember hearing about that comment, but like
really
she did go quiet. It's not that no one really cares what she's doing. It's that like
because people aren't serious about politics, so they don't pay attention to what these politicians say. Like, why are we trying to hide from the truth here? Like,
I was just gonna say, like, let's be real. Both of these motherfuckers, Biden and Kamala, are just kind of gaff machines. Like, they fumble their words a lot. So it's like,
yeah,
we're not gonna focus on that as much as like Trump was, because Trump was like obviously crazy, and these are the good guys. But like, it's also a lot to do with like motherfuckers just don't care about politics. Like,
it's even more than that. That like Black Americans are a captured electorate for Democrats, and by being a captured electorate, they don't have to talk about Black politics at all because look at the other guys. Like that's just basically how they roll. Where it's like they understand that like you're never ever going to vote Republicans, and even if you try to say like, oh, you're gonna leave, you're not leaving the party, like because you have no other option.
Wait a minute, hold on, pull back. Wait a minute, hold on, pull back. I just googled her remarks. right? And I'm going to read them. This is on whitehouse.gov. Think about it. Black people are 13% of America's population, but make up 60%
gun
of
victims. Yes,
gun homicide victims.
that is
Victims.
1315.
No,
That
it's
is not
That
1350.
absolutely is for 1315.
That is not
Is
1350.
part of that 62% police
No.
killing black people?
What? Huh? Sorry.
What is the political significance of saying black people make 13% of the population, but over and occurrence it was like 63% of gun violence victims?
They're
What is the
overrepresented. Wait, hold
Read
on.
the rest of her quote. Read the rest.
Okay.
Read the entire thing in
I'll-
context.
I will. Hold on. Here we go. Hold on. Excuse me.
Go all
all
the
right,
way
so-
up. Go all the way up when she talks about Buffalo. It's
Okay.
a whole paragraph. It's a whole
Okay,
paragraph.
all right. Hold on, we're gonna Google Buffalo. And remember, I haven't seen these seen any of this before, so maybe I'm missing context. So we're looking at it.
Yeah, it's fine.
First, the freedom from gun violence. Hold on, guys. Excuse me. First, the freedom from gun violence. So recently, I visited Buffalo, New York, to attend the funeral of an 86-year-old grandmother who went to the grocery store after, as she often did, spending the day with her husband, who was in nursing home, Mrs. Whitfield. I went to Highland Park, Illinois, where there were strollers and lawn chairs scattered up and down the street where there was supposed to be a parade for July 4th. There, as in Uvalde, Texas, as in Greenwood, Indiana, just last night, and in so many communities across our nation, scenes of ordinary life have been turned into war zones by horrific acts of gun violence. Mass shootings have made America a nation of mourning. Oh, yeah, this is just above where I read before. It's not only the mass shootings we see in our communities every day, but it's no less tragic or outrageous. And then she goes into the 30%. Okay, so she brings up a bunch of recent mass shootings, right? Yeah, she doesn't specify that like
the issue of the need for reasonable gun safety laws is a real issue when we are talking about the civil right, the right that all communities should have to live a place that is safe without weapons of war ruining those streets. How can she reasonably believe that all those acts of violence that she brought out are analogous to each other?
Wait a minute,
Or
because
similar to each other?
they're mass shootings. That's what she was. That's the common thread, obviously here, right?
One was a mass shooting that was racially motivated.
But that's not what she was talking. In that specific moment, she's just focusing
right, and that's careless.
on.
That is careless.
That is not careless. What the fuck? Why
absolutely
would it
careless.
be? Sorry, Joe.
Prime
Like I don't.
Prime
Hold on, no,
Video
so excuse me. Joe, I don't understand. Like this. It's like every speech can't be about every particular thing, right? So at this point, she's chosen to talk about mass shootings, right? She has a clear through line. She names mass shootings have happened, right? She brings up the Uvalde one, the Buffalo one, and talks about the grandma and all that, right? And then she goes on to say that black people are overrepresented in gun violence, which is a fact. And that's not 1350. It's kind of disgusting that you like mix those two together, because that is not what that is. No,
I'm
that
sorry,
is
but I'll do it again.
1350. 1350. I don't. Now you're making defend Kamala. Now that's the thing I can't forgive you for.
I'm
right?
I'm sorry that you feel like that's what I said, but I'll say it again though.
1350 is black people are 13% of the population.
I know what 1350
no, hold on.
is.
You clearly don't, because you just said that this was it.
We don't need to have
Hold on,
this
whoa.
back and forth lecture
I'm gonna
on
finish
this
my
stuff.
words. I will finish my words. That's absolutely
Absolutely.
gonna happen. Okay, so 1350 saying or 30% of the population, but then commit half of the crimes, right? And that study isn't right to begin with. Like that's what it is to say that we make up such a small percentage of the population, but then we make up such a high percentage of the crime, right? And does that say something about black people? Are black people more violent? You kind of just like leave that like kind of made up stat out there, right? And you imply that black people are violent. Instead, what she's saying that black people are victims of these crimes. That talking about like we have a systemic problem within our nation, and to say that that's 1350, wow, that's dishonest.
That's
Okay.
Basically, that statistic is more on inner city violence and not just like the entirety of the violence. That's more.
She never
for inner
clarifies
city
that
violence.
she never clarifies that it's city violence. We can read her words. Prime did. I read them too. We don't have to do that.
But we're
Unless
in
you
the
think she's
statement-
talking about cities there.
Restart my stream again.
Yeah.
I do
but-
think there's a difference between claiming that black people are the victims of crime rather than saying that black people are the perpetrators of crime. I don't necessarily see the connection
Wow.
with 1350 here either.
Thank you, Al.
Yo, can someone post a link to her words in chat?
Yeah, I'll
I was gonna ask that. I meant to
I'll
ask that.
put them in the
Yeah,
I'll put them in the group DM, and I'll put them in the Twitch chat.
All right,
Black
cool.
people are 13% of America's population, but make up 62%. And here's the key words of gun homicide victims, not
Sure.
perpetrators, victims.
Yeah. So you guys can take a look at that yourself. All right. Then beyond that, like so, how we got here, was her. Again, I don't like Kamala Harris, right? She's a fucking cop, and you know how I feel about cops. But this got brought up because of her race, and so you were saying that she's not doing some sort of honest presentation of her race, right? How is this? Because this is what you brought up then, because I hadn't heard about this. How is this a dishonest a representation of her race?
When you were, it's not a dishonest representation of a race. I'll just say about what Sale's going to try to say again, because it seems like we need a few passes on this. When you are talking to a group of people about issues that are affecting their communities, to suggest that the Highland Park shooting, the Uvalde, Texas shooting, and the Buffalo shooting have a thread of racialized violence is careless, especially in the context when you're talking in front of the NAACP. You can make the argument of gun violence and say that, she's doing this to try to peddle gun safety. That's a totally fair thing you can do, because you can say it in her words. However, I think it's very, very interesting at how these three shootings are put together to make an argument for gun safety. Saying that black people make up 13% of the population, but 62% of gun homicide victims is a very interesting argument to make towards gun safety. The argument doesn't make sense to me. That's my whole point. Because again, if you're trying to, if you're not going to say, hey, I see the plight within your communities, I'm going to clarify the fight and say, let me rephrase that. If you're not going to clarify the fight or fight for people, you have to do something else. And she didn't do that. Even in the rest of her speech, she's alluding to this idea that, hey, these issues and the way that we solve this is with gun safety, when we can recognize the violent acts that happened in Buffalo, the violent acts that happened in Uvalde, in Highland Park, and the three instances and the conditions as to why they happened are worlds apart from each other. And to put those three together to me is careless. Now, you can, if you're trying to peddle gun safety, I guess it's a thing you can do, but in my eyes, it's careless.
I feel like there was a weird, somehow a weird miscommunication or a misunderstanding, I should say, because what Prime had said, what 1350 actually was versus what I heard that as, based off the words, it just sounded like. I'm sorry. Is it 1350? Is it
the statistic has no bearing in the overall arc to what she is saying.
Okay.
Huh?
But you brought up 1350, like when you were criticizing her.
Was doing that.
Yes, and I elaborated on my point. Is there a part of that got lost?
Yeah, I
Is there
did.
something that is there something I can make more clear?
It's the fact that said that 13% of the population, which is obviously true, and we make up 62% of victims, not the perpetrator, like the 1350 likes to point out.
And the issue to that is reasonable gun safety laws. That's the connection. Because that's her argument. That's her argument, that the problem that existed in Highland Park, the problem that existed in Uvalde, the problem that exists in Buffalo, that's all just a problem of gun safety.
I hear you.
That's her argument. That is her argument. And that was a solution that she presented.
That could
That's the
be
solution
argued. I
that's the
wouldn't
solution
argue
that she
it, but it could
presented.
be argued. Yeah.
So, hold on. I think I hear. So I'm going to try to reach out an olive branch here. I think what you're trying to say, and if I'm incorrect, please let me know. But what I think you're trying to say is that those are mass shootings, and they have like mass shootings are different from like regular shootings that we see that most people die in, right?
Yes.
Mass shootings are, well, sometimes driven by ideology, sometimes mental health issues or whatever, right? But they are a special phenomenon, unfortunately, American phenomenon. But below that, I'll say, there are the regular, everyday, unfortunately, shootings that happen, and those are driven by different reasons altogether, right? The crimes in which Black people are most likely to die, that 60%, are most likely to die, are not these mass shootings. And so, like, conflating the two, mass shootings versus the regular shootings and the conditions that bring them apart, like bring them up, like gang violence or something, that's an issue. Is that what you're trying to say?
Yes, and to make it really clear, because again, I'm not trying to say that Kamala Harris isn't black or any of these other fucking things that people think hear because they're racist and can't understand what I'm taking and recognize that, hey, maybe a nigga like any other of you dumb fucks need a couple passes to get exactly what they're trying to say. Is that when you were talking to a group of people, you have to be very, very clear about what the fight is and what the issue is actually affecting those communities. Because Uvalde has nothing to do with black people. Highland Park has nothing to do with black people. Buffalo does. The homicides that are happening in black communities, because we can attest that all those 62% of black homicide victims are probably around concentrations of blackness in America. That's an issue. And you can clarify what those fights are. Racialized violence in America at the hands of white supremacists, and also the gun violence that exists within concentrations of blackness in America. And you can clarify those fights and what needs to be done. But instead, what she decided to do in front of black people is be dishonest and try to say all these things put together, here is my solution that I bring to you to the table. And I can't with my heart of hearts like compare Buffalo to gun homicide victims. I think that's just careless. And to do that in front of black people, it just confuses people, in my opinion. It confuses what the fight is. Because to say reasonable gun safety laws are the real issue is a lie. It's part of an issue for sure.
Yeah.
But to say that is the real issue, not one of many, because she's able to, because she's there having a speech. She can clarify the fight as wide and as broad as she wants to, or as specific as she wants to. But instead, that's what she presented. And then she continued. And understand the number of guns manufactured in this country tripled over the last 20 years. What does that have to do with a white man going into a supermarket and killing black people with the intent to kill black people? What does that have to do with it? The president signed the first federal gun safety law in nearly 30 years. Is that going to bring those families in Buffalo back? Is that going to bring all those families that are victims of gun violence, but all those children, young adults, and a lot of them are black men? Is this going to bring them back? No. But we need to do more, she says, and we must repeal the liability shield that protects gun manufacturers. Like, what are we doing? And then renew the assault weapons ban? Like, what is she talking about? And that's what I'm talking about. Because what does the assault weapons ban have to do with gun homicide victims in cities? Because we can, if we want to pull apart that stat a little bit, of 62%, a lot of those black people are going to be from cities.
They'll be killed by handguns. But like,
Yeah.
okay, I can.
And that's the point I'm trying to articulate. Like when you talk to these like groups of people, whether it be if she's talking to If she's talking to members of the Desi community, if she's talking to Black people, if she's talking to white people, it's foolish to think that the issues within these communities are similar. They're not. So
Can I
if you're talking in front of them, you have to, at least in my opinion, you have to be specific about the phenomena that are happening. And if you're going to put things together to make an argument for a longer or wider problem, then I'm going to hold you to it. I'm going to hold you to your words.
can I
And
ask a question, Joe?
yeah,
Now, like, I'll give you this. Like, it's foolish. It's foppish, even. Like, she's going in front of the NAACP, and she's not going into as much depth as we on this panel would like. I can agree with that. Like, I'll criticize the vice president here. It's foolish. It's foppish. Can we agree though? That's not the same as her going in front of the NAACP and being like, well, with the shootings in Uvalde and the shootings in Buffalo, it sure is a shame. Black people make up 13% of the population yet commit 50% of the crimes. Like, she did make the bare minimum effort, and we can agree that
sure.
it wasn't good, but like, it's not the 1350 you would hear on Alex Jones. It's not the 1350 you would
Correct.
hear on, and I think that's where the main disagreement is, because like when you come in here and you say like, yo, she did the 1350, that's what I imagine. Some motherfucker being slimy and saying, well, they make up 13% of the population, but they only
Yeah.
commit
And if I
50%.
can, yeah, and if I can elaborate a little bit, when I say 1350, it's insofar as using statistics to increase an argument towards something. And for me, 13% of the population to 62% of gun homicide victims is not the analogy that you need to do for the argument that you're making towards gun safety within
Yeah.
how it led to that point. So for me, that's where like I hear that as 1350, because it's not used as a means of some type of constructive criticism about what actually is happening. It's just being used to pander gun control, which is fine.
yeah,
You
like
can
tho-
do
like tho-
that,
like
but using that statistic in her argument, it's unnecessary.
yeah, like those incidents literally just prove like why many more black Americans should be uh you know open carry concealed weapons, because in case instances like that does happen right near her, because it will protect them more, that know that they have some sort of protection against some racist guy that wants to shoot them down because of what they are.
That's
That's
a,
true.
We never think twice when we like we we didn't think twice when that one white man, in the face of violence to their church community, blasted their shooter. We didn't even think twice. They heralded that man for his
Yeah.
act that he did to protect the people around him. But God forbid, we don't have instances of that within the communities that black people find themselves in, because the culture of guns is different. There isn't a culture of guns that says, hey, black America, you can have this weapon to protect yourself, and in the face of violence you can use it on somebody as a means of defense. That's not in the culture of black people.
It's really not. No. I
Should
don't know.
we should we
That's a
talk
gun. That's a
about that
part of gun
into our
culture. That is a part of gun culture that is explicitly given to white people.
sorry.
And I have so many instances to reinforce this claim.
So
But
my problem is, so okay, like you can say that her words are artful, and I see your point, right? I see that, like, when designing a speech to drive a point, like I studied some of this in college, right? So like you have to have a very clear like line of thought, right? That she was trying to connect these certain dots to deliver a certain message. Okay, right? And you're saying, well, those dots are misaligned, right? They seem like they're all connected, but they're actually not. And putting them together kind of obfuscates like the real issue. Okay, but like I mean, sure, she delivered an artful speech, right? That could have been better. That if Joe Lewis had a pass at it, it would have been a lot sharper. Okay, but like
maybe at least
like
on guns. But yeah, I get your point.
yeah, I just don't see that this as a point of heavy criticism. I feel like you could go through a lot of politician speeches and find
Oh,
the same
absolutely.
thing.
Well, that's
Yeah.
that's like that's I mean, like, sure, we can, like, I'm picking her pretty hardly, right? Pretty hard here, but yeah, I'm in agreement with you there, because Obama does the same thing, if not worse. Joe Biden does the same thing, like when he talks about black people and black owned businesses. And his progress on that is currently zero.
Right.
And it's like, and I guess, like, the frustration that I have, like the deeper frustration, I'm like, I'd love to get, like, just try to pull it back to rappers and guns, is that, like, because Democrats don't have to listen to black people to make their argument as to why you should vote for Democrats. They're able to just kind of talk and navigate in a way of an electorate that they've captured, and they just can say whatever they want, and then any type of, like, pullback of, like, hey, can we, like, recognize what you say is kind of, like, messed up? And then it's always just like, well, where are you gonna go? Like, you gonna be a Republican? Like, you're not, like, look at them. It's no different than, like, the situation that trans folks find themselves in. I hate to do the Captain Itchy Sticky Beard here and bring up trans folks in a conversation about black people, but, like, trans folks are a captured electorate in the Democrat Party because they don't have any other options. And it's just like,
Joe Biden literally said in black people's face that was talking about reparations. He literally said, "I'm not doing anything for you guys. I'm not about to do anything about reparations." And people really thought that when Joe Biden got into office, yay, we was finally gonna get reparations for, like, the 15th time that we asked. Like, no, that wasn't going to happen.
Who thought that nonsense?
Yeah,
What
some-
Midwestern nigga thought that
Right.
nonsense?
Who thought that?
Some old ass civil rights leaders or activists. Yeah, that's in quotations.
No one in this room.
No one in this room, I don't think.
No one in my community, not my old ass granny.
I'm happy that Obama.
I was
a-
hopeful. I was hopeful for it. I'm so new to politics. I heard that was a possible thing, and my brain had the happy chemicals going, and I wanted to, like.
Well,
It
reparations.
sounds good.
Listen, every time someone says they're gonna give us reparations, know that they lying through their fucking teeth. Just know it. Just know
Yeah,
it.
but
Just
The
yeah,
thing
but
is,
yeah,
the
but
thing is, I at least
every
know
time
that it
because
is doable. They just don't wanna.
So
It's-
happiness.
of course,
easy.
of course they don't want to, because why would they?
yeah.
If
So-
if the black vote is basically free for them, why the hell would they give black Americans anything that vote for these white politicians?
So when
Like,
you vote, don't you vote for whoever's going to screw you less?
The lesser of two
No.
evils. It thing.
No,
I
no.
No, I'm gonna be real. I'm
Don't?
gonna answer honestly. Like, before I got into politics, like during the middle of the pandemic, like all of us did, and we hopped online and we started talking our shit. Yeah, I
16.
was I was one of the motherfuckers that was 100% like, yeah, you gotta vote for the lesser of two evils, the shinier of two piles of shit. And
Right.
the more I look into these motherfuckers, it's just like, damn, that got old 50 years before I was fucking born, bro. Like,
Oh, the margin
Jesus
for
Christ.
shittiness is fantastic. You can't even argue with that. Like, it's literally like a 3% margin of shittiness.
Well, it's
well,
not
again,
even that. Like,
no.
it's like the
That-
options are someone who's willing to shoot me and a bunch of other marginalized people in the faces, and then, like, a nice fucking hot trash bag in the sun that's been out there
Yeah.
for like the entire summer. And it's like, ugh.
well, I mean, like, look at it this way. It's like Republicans will, in the face of racialized violence, pretend that you don't exist and that's not a problem, and then Democrats will just ignore you. Like,
That's why I feel as well. But the way I say it is that Republicans don't want the black vote. Democrats abuse the black vote because it's our vote that puts these politicians in office.
I'll fix it.
And-
Republicans don't want black people to vote. God, there you go.
True.
Well, you can say that too, and it's these liberal politicians that always come out here and claim that they are advocates for Black Americans. They want to actually help out Black Americans, but then a lot of policies that they create it mainly helps out the white liberal ideology that has no benefits for Black America itself. And this is the same way like you can come to like the rap genre. You have some people in in that HQ that runs the rap game that says, yo, this is the same thing with the NBA as well. You get these guys right here, have them do this, and don't have them do anything else. And that's when it comes to like the rap genre. Hey, you want to make it big, then you gotta talk about shooting. You gotta talk about drugs. You gotta talk about gotta talk about clubbing. Like that's the main thing that like a lot of Black Americans do in the rap genre in order to make it big and like a whole get rich quick scheme. And a lot of people keep on signing into that because they are so just rushing to get big, the Hollywood scene. 50 Cent did the exact same thing. And when you have people like that are actually in it for that get rich quick scheme and not actually try to send out a positive message, then it's just a continued cycle that happens over and over and over again. And people who do call it out like this, they basically get called corny, lame, or basically self-hating, or some stupid like that.
No, we can also recognize that there are plenty of rappers that just do it for the love of what they do, and with the love that within the love of what they do can open a lot of doors and lead them in a bunch of different ways. But again, it still remains true that their community doesn't change when they're gone. Like it's the same thing. So like I would love like I don't like I guess the best way I can put it is that if Democrats treated black people the way that Republicans treat evangelical Christian women, then we would have so much more shit. Like, because make no mistake, like, Republicans understand that evangelical Christian women are an electorate that they have to make sure is in their politics. And they do a fantastic job at clarifying that fight and clarifying what's at stake every time they talk. And it's never it's never shy that they're talking to them overtly. And the same way they talk about mothers, and they talk about how like, oh, like you're gonna let like this like indoctrination in public schools happen. Well, we're the mama bears and we're not gonna let that happen. Like, imagine if you had a president or some politicians say, I see what these Republicans are doing about the history of your people, and I'm gonna make sure that that's not going to happen on my watch. Like, that's such a simple thing to say.
Pretty sure they did say that a bunch of times. Like Republicans are trying to doing everything they can to erase your history. So vote for us to prevent that, and nothing ever happens or nothing ever benefits our way. So it still does happen.
Well, yeah, but the point they're trying to make is that like, how are they going to try to stop that? Because they never point to pieces of legislation or actions as a means of saying like this is how we're going to do it. Like for about a year it was just like the CRT is going to be taught in schools apologia, and then it's like, they're still legislating the restriction of textbooks in the classrooms and trans
So
folks identities, and they're going to keep doing this. So what are you going to do about it, guys?
I
Like,
think this conversation I'm not gonna say it proves, but like it demonstrates a lot of things that I've been thinking. Is that like we can say that like the rap community isn't 100% without fault. Like we can look at the individual actions of like the rappers and stuff and be like, yo, why aren't you making better music? Why aren't you putting out better rap songs? We can look at like the industry itself and see which type of rap gets consumed more. Unfortunately, it's gangster rap by like the majority of people who listen to the rap, not just black people. But I think the bigger point of this conversation highlights the fact that like a lot of these issues have to go and deal with politics. Rappers aren't going to solve the community wide issues in the black community. Migos isn't going to come and solve the magic wand and make shit better. And even on the off chance that they do come back to their communities and they like rebuild you know, their old childhood home to, you know, work for the community, there's still the legal shit that's going on that's preventing these communities from like rising up the way that, you know, black people across America dream of. Like that shit can't be ignored. And like, I'll agree with Joe here. Like, listening to Democrats waffle about it and then say the same old shit, like, yo, yeah, they're erasing your history, and then not do shit or offer solutions. So it's getting tiring. We know the Republicans are cartoonishly evil motherfuckers. Like, now it's your turn to do something about it. But I think like that's where it is. Like, the rap community has some things we can talk about within it, but like it's got to do with the politicians when we talk about solving it.
So
Well,
to get back to the musical portion of it, I really feel like, has anybody here been in front of a producer or an engineer and tried to make music?
Yeah.
No, I haven't. I mean,
Okay.
actually, unless you count Garage
to.
Band, because then maybe, but
No,
Uh,
when you have somebody telling you, okay, so I have this beat for you, we're trying to get this kind of vibe out of you, like, can you rap about this? Can you sing this? And you're saying, I don't sing. And they're like, well, we really want you to sing over this. So there are certain suggestions that are made by people that are putting out this music. So when you end up getting a contract, maybe you were underground. Now that you're being brought into the studio, they're looking for a certain direction out of you. And they may influence the direction you take. So I put that on the industry as well.
Well, I mean, yeah. And the industry also designs itself in such a way where they won't support you when you need help. Like, and this is true for a lot of labels. Like, this is true for almost all labels. But the communities that don't have any type of like actual political power and money are going to be the ones that feel it the hardest. Where and it's unfortunate because like if any like you can't just be a black musician and say I'm going to pull all my music off Spotify and prioritize concerts. Like you can't say that. Like
No,
uh,
not at all.
like you can't like and on top of that like you can't say hey I'm in some type of trouble and I need some type of assistance to get myself out of the situation. Labels don't give a shit. Like
Shut up and sing, bro. That's
yeah,
what it is.
shut up and sing. And make no mistake, like when people are like wooing and wawing about, oh, I can't believe Kanye West is doing all of these things. His career is over. His career is over the same way as Kyrie's was. Donda 3 is gonna come out and everybody's gonna just magically forget what happened.
Did you watch
Like,
that thing this morning?
what's up?
Did you watch that thing this morning?
Yeah,
I
no,
don't
like
watch Kanye West anymore because he's not
Oh,
serious.
no, no,
I'm
no.
gonna be
There was
real with
a giant torpedo.
I'm gonna
That
be real with you, Joe. Like that torpedo of an interview is the one thing that makes me think like he can release Donda, but it's not like the Kyrie thing. He kind of has to shut the fuck up with like the whole being a fucking Nazi. There's no way to fucking say it at this point. Like, gee, like
Yeah.
just stop being a fucking Nazi, and maybe when Donda 4 comes out in like 5 years, maybe. But
Hold on,
like,
what are you serious? Hold
Jesus
on,
fucking Christ.
he's not gonna be. He's done. He's done, right?
Done.
Like
The
he's
same way
done.
Donald Trump was done?
yeah, I was about to say the exact same
Yeah,
thing.
No.
The
that's
same
No,
way that
even-
Nick Cannon, the same way
even-
that Nick Cannon was
But
done?
nobody is down forever. Like they like everybody thought like at one point Michael Jackson was going to be down. Next thing you know, he bought. I'm pretty sure it was Sony Music. He ended up buying the whole company after he got into it with
He
some.
did not buy Sony Music. I can
executive.
assure you, he did not buy Sony Music. He
Beatles
did not.
Masters. He got the Beatles Masters. That's what it was.
Yeah.
Okay.
Pyro,
What's up?
do you think that? And I'm sorry, I guess I interrupted you. I did apologize. Do you think that he's going to survive this? Like, that he gets to
no.
release?
No. He won't shut the fuck up. Like he just won't shut the fuck up. In a hypothetical universe where maybe he shuts up and maybe he takes the advice of niggas around him telling him also, yo, hey, shut the fuck up. Maybe. And that's a very hard maybe. But there's nowhere in the universe I'm going to put a hard yes on that because he said some pretty horrible shit. If it weren't for that interview today, Hard maybe if he shut the fuck up, but he made that interview.
I don't.
He's not gonna shut the fuck
I
up.
think
Like,
it's
No,
I think he's.
I
I
think
I think he's
I
just
think
getting
America.
started.
I think
But-
America lets a
he's
lot of
just
shit
getting
slide.
started. Yes.
That's
Yeah.
the problem. He's just getting started. America lets a lot of shit slide. Like there are several points where like, yo, if he just shut the fuck up, he would have been.
who's
all
going to
right.
release his
But
music?
he's dead.
He
ass
can
serious
release it himself.
of running back
He
in
will.
2024.
Yeah.
There's no way this guy's is gonna go away.
Yeah, of course he can release music himself, but to have any sort of wide distribution, like he needs the was it 4 music companies to do so. Who is working
I
with
don't-
him?
I don't think he needs it.
It'll all be
Like-
digital.
And like he and among the like the stations that'll play it, right? Like sure, he can make music. He can actually produce. He has the money to do so. And he can release that music. Put it fucking on SoundCloud, right? He can definitely do that. But I think his career as a serious rapper is over. I'm hoping. Okay, this is my hope, but any which way, because but like I just don't see how he recovers from this.
I
Don't
mean,
underestimate the power of people in large groups. He is
he can
making
recover.
a STEM player. People will
The-
buy that STEM player just to get his music.
nobody like.
Nothing.
If I'm being honest, I don't think any label is going to. They like money. They like money.
Like,
Like
told, he
all
doesn't need a
this,
label. He
all
just
this-
released it independently.
all this fuck shit around Kanye, and his music is still on Spotify. It's still on Tidal. It's still on Apple Music.
And that's why I
Well,
say,
let's
like,
see if
if
it's
he
still on Spotify after today. Let's
No,
wait
but,
for
but
that
the thing
because
is, but the thing
What's
is that we
that?
got to remember that nobody's going to watch the Alex Jones. I'm going to be very, very clear about this. Nobody's going to watch the Alex Jones interview.
Oh, you're
'cause no one's
absolutely
actually
wrong.
serious.
Why
No,
I'm
no,
so
Tyler,
No, no, no.
It-
They're
Tyler,
going to watch.
people-
They're going to watch. They're going to do the same thing that they
Joe.
did to Donald Trump.
Joe.
They're going. I can clarify this to make it very clear because you're not going to be. We saw that the media loves sensationalism, so they're not going. No one's going to watch the interview with Kanye West and Alex Jones. They're going to watch the clips that exist within the zeitgeist of the conversation. But nobody's going to go out of their way to watch the interview. It's
I'm
the
gonna-
exact
I'm
same
gonna
thing
be
that happened to
real with
Donald.
Joe.
It happened with Donald Trump and Twitter.
I get
the exact same thing.
I'm gonna be real with you, Joe. The Alex Jones interview, and I'm like, you gotta listen to Kai here. Ooh, like, you gotta watch it. It's just shit that's gonna change the narrative a lot, and like, ugh. But it's the shit he said, the clips that will be used when it goes mainstream.
Mhm.
That's bad enough. It's
Yeah.
good that they're not gonna watch the full
But
thing
no,
because that
but
shit
the-
paints him worse.
No, but
No,
the thing
no.
is that it's
Nope.
not bad enough for them to stop covering him, and that's
Yeah.
my point.
no.
Yeah,
Covering him.
Joe,
Well,
right.
covering is different. Wait a minute. Covering is different. Yes, he will still be in the news. That part,
Right.
I won't disagree with you. I'm talking about his career, the music career. Specifically
His music
it-
career is not. It's not gonna be
it
done.
is
It's not
is
gonna be
over
done.
because like
It's not.
again I don't see how after this he gets the wide distribution. Again, he can release it himself, obviously, right? We know this. But like he doesn't get the wide distribution. Like none of the major labels will touch him, right? Maybe there is a small label that will, but most of those small labels work with the major labels, like the 4 major labels, right? Like they're under them. So I don't believe that he has that like he can release something and maybe you'll see a spike wherever it's
It'll
released,
be
right? Like spike in
rogue.
interest. But like I'm not even sure if his music stays on Spotify. I'm not even sure if his music.
Well, yeah,
Stays
I
there.
mean,
Yeah,
not to cut you off, Prime. Like,
he doesn't
No,
mean-
it's fine.
My bad.
yeah, I want to be wrong. Like, I want to be wrong on this. I want to be wrong that, like, people will like companies will put their foot down and say this is unacceptable and pull it, but that's a lot of revenue that they're just saying we don't need. And for Kanye, and that's the precedent you're gonna set. Like, and if
Like,
you set
again-
that precedent, fantastic. But I don't know.
I'm just saying, Joe, if he doesn't shut the fuck up, he's not being let back in. If he shuts
Yeah.
the fuck up for a little bit, maybe I will give you that. Maybe that happens. But he's
I mean, the
not
same thing
gonna
happened
shut
with
up.
Mel Gibson. He was critically panned
It,
for.
it happened with
and
Nick
Nick Cannon.
He didn't go that
Cannon.
hard.
And-
Nick
yeah.
Cannon called melanated people, he called Jewish people savages, and he never lost his jobs.
How long
No,
did
he,
he say?
Like,
he
he was
actually bought
on
some
the
companies.
mask.
That
He was on the Masked Singer the entire time. They never cut him. And
that
then when Viacom was like, you know what, like this is our stand, he complained for his show back, went on an apologia tour with talking to Jewish leaders, donating money and shutting the fuck up, and then they gave it back to him. And it's like he didn't change.
I hate I have to say this, but someone in Prime's chat just made a really good point, and it boils down to 3 words that Kanye said repeatedly. I love the certain German guy from 1944. He said that repeated,
Yes.
like no one else has
And
ever
like I
quite
and
reached
and
that
again,
bar of
like
saying the quiet part out loud. So
yeah,
that might hurt Kanye a lot, bro. That
but
might hurt. He said like, "Yo, the fucking the bad guys from 1944. There's things you can like about him. Like he might not make it back from that. Like that's the quiet part out loud. That's what all these motherfuckers were hinting at, and they knew not to say that part out loud." As bad as you might think them to be, as evil and they know not to say the quiet part out loud. That's why Tim Pool got so offended. That's why Alex Jones is turning into a beet red tomato. Because Kanye's just out here being like, no, I love Darth Vader. I love the bad guys. Like I love the Empire. Like that shit is. And that's why I say maybe, because this interview came out. Had it been
but
before the interview,
also too, like I mean, if we this is you know what, fuck it,
you gotta watch the interview. This argument
I
you can't
watched it twice. Like
I still have yet to watch it fully.
I
I might
don't
watch it on
watch it
my
a third
stream.
time, bro.
like,
Like listen
I
to
might
the
watch it on my
like
stream. I haven't
I mean,
recorded.
like it is funny though. It's that like we expect people to take a hard stance on Hitler, but then praise like the Andrew Jacksons and Jane Madisons of the world. But we're not there yet. I get it. We're not there yet. We're licking our wounds.
We're not there yet.
Maybe
But
we'll
yeah.
get there. But
I don't know. You've made a scary argument there. If you, I thought you didn't see the clips, but like you're saying you did see it. Okay, well then
Yeah.
I'll take
no,
you
I
for
saw
that.
I watched the
He thought he
entire
took
thing.
out.
Yeah.
I watched
So,
the entire
the
thing.
entire interview.
I
Loud,
yeah.
bro.
So
It's
look,
bad. I'm not trying to make
I-
it seem like it's some lollipops and rainbows.
It's
no, I agree with you.
Like,
Yeah, no, I understand. It's just that I'm saying that like
Quiet part out loud.
I like before the start of before the start of Abe, I made the argument that this was it for Kanye, right? And this was the end, at least of his career. Again, not him being an infamous celebrity. But maybe you're right. Maybe you're right that Mel Gibson should be gone.
well, I mean, there are
for
plenty
what he did,
like
but
Black.
there are plenty of like black people who were like very very quick to defend Jerry Jones. Like it's the same thing. Somebody that I follow on Twitter mentioned a pretty decent point in that like a part of being in Black America is having to find good in problematic white individuals, and like the Kanye example with the dude with the silly mustache from a particular location who genocided an entire group of people is an extreme of that. But then at the same time, like it's just kind of like a culture of America where like there are individuals that we outright like label as bad and bad on all terms, but then we get very very loose with our own history. Like and again, like I don't think we're quite there to talk about that quite yet, because like Kanye's in like the amplification of news right now, but it's very clear that like even within our own history, we did a very good job at painting people kind of like the founding fathers as individuals that we ought to idolize and be able to to judge them like to not judge them at all and think that like, oh, they're just reflections of their time, that type of shit, you know. But
okay. We'll have to leave it there. So
no, it's spicy. It's a very spicy grenade.
Do you want to leave it there, Prime? You look like you have something you want to say.
It's a very spicy grenade.
I mean, no, I have no I want Kanye to be done. I desperately
do
want
too.
him. He's a garbage human being. I've been saying it for a while, and he's proven it today, right? I'm patting myself on the back, and I'm going to go on and get an apology from the people who said otherwise on this stream. I'm coming for them. But
Yes, you for me.
I'm on your
Yeah.
side. Don't worry.
but we'll see. It's just that like I guess there's a world in which he makes it back from this.
After
I
this
feel
interview,
like this is something different from all those others because you could, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
simply put, he's saying the quiet part out loud, and
No. He picked up a team of nationalists. He picked up a pedo apologist, a white nationalist Holocaust
But Kai,
denier.
you know the funny
He got
part
a
about it?
team.
Kai, you know the funny part about it?
Go ahead.
No one's focusing on that. They're focusing on what Kanye said because he's saying some really horrendous shit.
Oh no, they're shitting on Trump too. Just
Yeah.
because Nick was there. Just because
I
Nick was
mean,
there, he's catching shade from McConnell, from all these different Republicans. So
Uh-huh.
the people that Kanye has aligned himself with, I'm going to say the Legion of Doom.
Don't give them that name. I like
This is the party that doesn't
Yeah,
believe
right.
systemic racism is real, by the way. This is the party that
Super
gaslights black people on systemic racism. Like that's the irony of it. Where it's like
great.
they'll parade their mind. No, I digress.
Okay, well then let's just keep it moving.